Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Charleston, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And boy, oh boy, we have an episode for you guys here today that you definitely want to stick around for. So make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel before we get into it here. So anyway, let me get into this topic here. Now, as y'all know, we never discuss politics on this channel. Ever, because I've made it very clear that I don't like politics, and I also want to make it clear from the onset right here in this video right here from the very beginning that this video has absolutely zero political angle. I have no political point I'm trying to make. I'm trying to get to a larger point. With that being said, Stephen A. Smith, as y'all know, is the face of ESPN, right? He's their most popular personality on there, and he is synonymous with sports, right? Because he's the face of a sports multinational, right? In ESPN. But recently, he made it clear that he does have some interest of getting into the political arena in the future. And yesterday, funny enough, he made an appearance on the show on Fox News. The show's called Jesse Waters Primetime. I don't really watch news, but that's the show he went on there. He went to have an interview. And what we want to do is we want to play some of the things that they discussed in that sit down. Is a very short video. The entire video itself is 6 minutes. We're only going to play maybe a few minutes of that. So what we want to do is we want to play a little bit of what was said in that interview. We want you guys to really pay attention to what was said in these sound bites. And then we're going to come back and react to it. So take a listen to this soundbite here.
Stephen A. Smith, the host of No Mercy with Stephen A. Smith podcast. And he joins me now. So you're in charge. We're going to make you president. What is the Stephen A. Smith platform to solve the crime and homelessness crisis?
Well, first of all, I did not know you dropped this on me. I certainly didn't know we were going to be talking about this, but I'm game for it. Thank you so much for having me. There is no question that a lot of these issues need to be addressed. There is no question that we should be against an extremely progressive agenda that's calling for people to be released from prison on multiple occasions, that's ignoring a lot of crime that's taking place in the streets. There is no doubt about that. Where I don't vibe with you, Jesse Waters, who I respect, is that when you talk about politicians themselves being innocent, they're not innocent in all of this. A matter of fact, in some instances, the division that exists and has existed for so long has contributed to kind of some of the nonsense that's been taking place in the streets. It doesn't excuse it. Doesn't mean it doesn't have to be addressed.
Where do we disagree? I feel like we're in agreement. We have time to plug your new podcast. What's that going to be about?
Well, listen, I've always wanted to expand beyond the parameters of sports to get into politics, news, pop culture, entertainment, social issues, what have you. This Wednesday, I'm interviewing Chris Cuomo. Friday, I'm interviewing Sean Hannity.
Wow.
And I just want my podcast to be, of course, I'm going to give you my monologue, my opening monologue like you do. I'm going to give you closing comments. But when it comes to interviews, I want my podcast to be a place where both sides of the aisle know they can come and they can have their views expressed and heard without somebody trying to stab them in the back or anything like that. All so right. I'm looking forward to it.
So you heard what they talked about in that soundbite. But what I want us to focus on for this particular show here, I want us to focus on what was said towards the end of that soundbite, where he alluded to wanting to pursue a political career and expand his horizons beyond the world of sports. Now, let's get to the point of this show here. If you have noticed, a lot of people out there that are known for one thing are beginning to start to branch out to do other things. Let me give you guys some examples of what I'm talking about. Patrick Bet-David. I'm sure a good amount of you have heard who Patrick Bet-David is. I actually discovered his content watching his business videos a number of years ago. I think he did a video on obviously what it's like to be a life of an entrepreneur in 60 seconds. He did a video when he went to go do a course in in Harvard University. Been following him ever since, right? So you have him, and he's a business owner who owns an insurance company. But now, if you listen to Patrick Bet-David, he seems to be, becoming like a political commentator, right? So here you have a businessman, who does business in his real life, started off his channel talking about business, and now he's getting into politics. That's one example. Then you have Jake Paul, who was originally known as a YouTuber and now is a boxer / celebrity. That's another example. You look at Mr. Beast, right, who's the biggest YouTuber in the world, who started off as a YouTuber and is still currently a YouTuber, but now he's a businessman. I was talking to the co-founder of Dreamerspro, Marco, the other day, and he told me that he listened to an interview where Mr. Beast was talking about some of his businesses. And I think his burger business, which is in food and beverage, the food and beverage industry, I think made $150 million last year in revenue. This is a guy that started off doing YouTube, right? Then he has his YouTube channels and all of these different things. And he even discussed how someone offered to buy his entire business portfolio for $1 billion. He said he's not even going to listen to anybody if you're not talking about $10 billion. And I recently saw in a video his plan about how to be worth $100 billion. So you have Mr. Beast, but it doesn't stop there. You have former athletes now venturing into boxing. You have people out there like Rihanna, who's into music. She started off as a musician. Now she's a business mogul in cosmetic. It just seems like so many people nowadays are pivoting into new careers. That's really where things, seem to be heading towards. And Stephen A. Smith, it seems like, is just another example of this. Now, in that interview, he did say that he is more of an independent, I guess you could say. He doesn't really seem to be wanting to take sides. Listen to Stephen A. Smith. I don't know if you could consider him an independent because, he seems to be into capitalism. He seems to be into making his money, and that's a very, conservative viewpoint. And I think there's nothing wrong making money, by the way, to be totally honest with you. But then also he seems to be kind of vocal on social. So I don't really know, right? I don't really know. That's irrelevant. But it's just interesting, however, that you see so many known people beginning to pivot into different industries, which brings us to the questions that we have for the audience here today, right? This is what really we're discussing here today. The first question is this. Do you think we are going to continue to see more people that started off doing one thing, venturing into other industries that they necessarily didn't go to school for? They didn't get any professional or conventional training for it. And obviously, there's some fields you cannot do that in. Number one, you cannot do that in aviation. You cannot stand up one day and say you watched a bunch of YouTube videos or whatever, you read a bunch of books and you want to now become a pilot. You cannot do that. You cannot do that with the law. You cannot do that as a lawyer. You definitely cannot do that as a doctor. So obviously those fields are going to be exempt. So I'm just talking about other fields like some of the ones that I've mentioned for you guys here. So do you think that we're going to be seeing more people go into second careers and start pivoting in their life? That's the one thing. Number two, who are the personalities out there, right? If you're talking about Stephen A. Smith, if you're talking about Patrick Bet-David, if you're talking about Joe Rogan, if you're talking about personalities, including Elon Musk, like these are also, Elon Musk is a business person, but he's also a celebrity. People like that. Who do you think are the people that eventually, maybe 5, 10, 15 years down the line, you're going to say to yourself, you could see going into politics, right? Who do you think out there that's currently out there that, is going to go into politics? For example, Patrick Bet-David, he said, for whatever reason, he believes that, I'm sure he has his reasons, that he believes that, Jake Paul is going to end up being the president of the United States one day, right? And I think some people are like, you just said, he's like, yeah, trust me. So he believes that. So who do you believe? And do you think media is now, like, if we're just talking about social media, for example, is now a lot of people are now using media and these social media platforms as a launching pad to branch out into other things? Do you think that's what we're going to see in the future? Because to be quite honest with you guys, it seems to me that there's so many industries out there that are just being created out of thin air. I'll give you one example, a quick one before we close. Editing. 20 years ago, if you're talking about editing, you're talking about either, film or TV or maybe independent film creators. Now editing is an entire sector. If you can edit well and, put music there and all of these, you have a job. You literally have a job because there's so many content creators out there. So whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section, and we'll definitely catch y'all on the next episode.